When I take it off and do it without it, I hate it more.
It's the Photofocus Roundtable, Episode 3. This is March 2022, Reflection. Our monthly roundtable where we offer our diverse takes on some current trends and not so much about daily news. This month we'll have on author Levi Sim, where we'll expand on his article where he used reflections to create an image where there probably wasn't an image there, and I'll badger him just a little bit as well. Let's thank our sponsor, Photomatix, the original and still the leader for high dynamic range photography. Download and try it free at hdrsoft.com. All right, so I'm here with my each month co-host, Rob Moroto from Calgary Photo. How's it going, Rob?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you doing there?
Doing all right. That's Wayne Chassan over there in, believe it or not, Marbella, Spain.
Hey, I do believe it. After 40 years.
So
it took me that long.
So exotic and no accent at all. And
well, I am American.
But
I don't think I have a real specific American accent from any part because of my travels.
Hey, Rob, what do you think? If I had to guess, if I hadn't known Wayne a little bit already, I would guess Canadian.
You know, I would probably say the same, somewhere either east or west coast, but nothing right in the middle.
Yeah, there's just that little bit of Canadian.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canadian style, Levi Sim, welcome to the show.
I lived in Alberta for 6 months.
You got right out of there, didn't you?
Ran for the border, man.
Right now, coming to us from Utah as a photographer at Utah State University. Cool.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys were going to badger me about my article. Sheesh.
Well, I just said that because it's you.
Old time's sake.
For old time's sake, because there are a few things I'll talk about Levi as we go through, but for anybody that's new to Photofocus podcasts, Levi and I used to do a podcast, just the two of us, a few years ago, until it was just life changes, I think, and we couldn't really keep it going. And so I'm really glad to have it back. Levi now has a full-time job, so doesn't work probably to do a regular show, but I'm glad to have you on. And since I feel like I just know you well, that I get to badger you.
Anytime. I'll take it. You let me sleep on your couch when I had to go to the Chinese embassy in San Francisco. So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
You can do as you like.
Levi came and got great shots of me and the little guy one time. Yeah, it was great. And lots of photography conferences thrown out there. So yeah, when we get to the part about your article, I'll tell you a little bit about why I thought about badgering you. We'll hold that as a tease. Okay.
I'll be nice, though.
Thanks, Rob. That's because you're Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this is audio, but I guarantee everybody's smiling like Canadians right now. That's so funny. A lot of people think I'm Canadian, and I do have Canadian family because it's that grin and joking around and always wanting to make everybody happy style. I don't know what happened to Rob, but Levi has that built in, and because I've seen Levi in action just on the street and talking to people, and it's a lot like that. It's making everybody happy all the time. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get a little bit more about Wayne first, because this would be the first time you've been introduced to the Photofocus audience. I know. So I just want to give you a chance. I'll just quickly introduce Wayne. He's up there in Marbella, and when I got introduced to Wayne when I saw your work, and he's just one of the pros out there that we would all aspire to be. Plus, gets to work in places like Seychelles and places that are so exotic to most of us North American audience people. So, hey, Wayne, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and where we let you roll with it for a minute.
Cool. Okay. You want the short, mid, or long version? What's appropriate here?
The mid. What are you doing? What are you doing these days? I've seen some of your architectural stuff. I've seen some of your commercial work for some hotels that was great. And maybe tell us what you're working on coming up.
Well, it's very interesting because I'm American born, but grew up partially in Spain and the rest in California. Actually, a lot in the Bay Area, so feel close to home talking with you guys. It's nice. Yeah. But I moved to Spain full-time when I was 18 to capture those memories I had of Spain as a child, which were, to me, it had been 1,000 years from 10 to 18, but for Spain, it hadn't been that long. And that was what really caught my eye, turned me into a photographer. And I very quickly wound up discovering that despite the fact that I didn't want to follow in the steps of my generations of architectural parents and forebears, I was an architectural photographer. And so life just happened for me in this booming resort town of Marbella for the last 40 years. It's kind of been my main zone. I would say within almost a half-hour range up and down the coast. This is kind of like the California of Spain. And
I was going to say, just to clarify, that's in the south of Spain, so that's down there.
Yeah, we look across the Straits of Gibraltar towards Africa on a crisp day, but it's southern coast.
It's not quite as far south as Gibraltar, right? It's just in...
Well, it's as far south, but Gibraltar's a little more west, about 45-minute drive.
Yeah, so it's kind of the one of those Riviera type spectacular areas. Yeah.
And then, I'd always had international clients, certainly locally, because there's a lot of international investment here, but I always did international work. And roughly the 5 years before the COVID, I really went a bit wild on worldwide assignments for a corporate client with a lot of buildings and launching a hotel chain. So what's been happening for me during the COVID and post-COVID, hopefully we're post-COVID process, has been just kind of a bit of an adaptation and a bit of a midlife transformation. We've moved.
Sounds serious.
Yeah, it's been a handful, and I'm finding that specifically over the last quarter, getting rid of the Christmas period, I've had a lot of activity coming back from clients. A lot of movement has been happening, which is encouraging because after everything that's been going on the last 2 years, it's been very up and down and very uncertain. And it's really nice to see phone calls coming in out of the woodwork all of a sudden that you were kind of forgot what that was like.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I think a lot of us are finding that more is opening up. And I was doing some work throughout. I know, Rob, you've been working a lot throughout all this as far as work behind the camera type of work. And so that's great. That's moving on. Hey, Wayne, so we have as our new person, you get the special grab bag question.
Okay.
Give us as a guy that's working internationally in various kinds of photography, what's the most unusual thing in your camera bag?
The most unusual thing in my camera bag. Okay. Gosh, I don't know what's actually unusual. Maybe it's I'd say the entire thing is just very highly thought out and efficient. I use a Think Tank airport roller bag to carry every single body, lens, and filter and accessory that's essential for me to have when I land. Now, that doesn't mean that the airlines allow me to carry the weight of that sucker on board, right. But it does fit on the sizes of most flights until you get on that tiny leg of the journey that some tiny little airplane.
Yeah, the puddle jumper over.
In those cases, actually kind of take it from your hands when you get to the plane and put it in this netted area or something and give it right back to you as you get off, so you kind of feel safe. But basically, I have everything I need with me to shoot when I land except for a tripod and lights, which I can rent in a worst-case scenario or work without in a worst-case scenario. But first of all, for safety, and second of all, so that I can actually do what I've been hired to do, my body's lenses, filters, cards, batteries, chargers, Advil, sewing kit, Kleenex, a coin to take off the quick-release plates, my Dinkum flag, and my photodiox wide-angle adapters for the extra-wide polarizers. Those are with me.
Extra wide polarizers. We got to come back to that.
I have a 145 millimeter polarizing filter for the Canon 1124, which I refused to buy the lens at first until they brought out. That was with the 17 millimeter tilt shift. When Canon announced that sucker that we'd all been architectural photographers had been dying for years, especially since we went digital. When when they announced that, I spoke with Canon. I'm not really connected, but I spoke with my connections there and said, great, when's the filter holder coming out? And they went, oh, we don't consider that we really need a filter holder for this. It's not appropriate. And so I didn't buy the lens for a little while, but then, of course, instantly did because I had to have it. It's still my favorite go-to lens. If I had to only take one lens with me on a property shoot, it would probably be that one. But as soon as Photodiox brought out their wide-angle adapter so that we could put on their 105 millimeter polarizing filter, I got that. And when Canon brought out the 1124, instantly Photodiox came out with their adapter with, I think it's 145 millimeter polarizing filter on that. Now,
are you using that indoors mainly, Wayne?
Actually, I use it outdoors mainly. And
really? You don't get V's of polarization?
You get those horrible V's, but listen, it depends on the time of year, the time of day, the angle you're at, and you know what the thing is, when I take it off and do it without it, I hate it more. I try to get creative. I try to get creative. Hopefully there are clouds in the sky, and if there's some beautiful wispy clouds happening in the sky, that kind of hides that horrific effect. The next thing you can do is maybe some trees or foliage and covering it up a bit. And if you can't do any of those, crop the sucker down to get rid of the worst of it. I've actually gotten to the point where I would put the polarizer on, take a bracket, polarizer off, take a bracket, but you get a lot of danger from the movement. And it doesn't work with the 1124 polarizing filter from Photodiox because it actually distorts the image in a slightly different way. So they don't really mind. So don't try that one. The other thing I do sometimes is make a very gentle polarizing effect.
Yeah.
Almost
move it across the sky a little.
And then make a darker effect, and then I can blend the two together for favorite areas.
Yeah.
Things we do for love.
Wayne, have you used the I've got the 1124, and I thought to myself, isn't that strange? They have the filter holder in the back of the lens where it goes towards the sensor, right?
Right.
Have you tried that?
I haven't tried that, but the problem is that I don't know of any polarizing filters. I know polarizing gels, but they kind of kill the quality. So I don't know a polarizing filter that fits in the back, although I've heard, and don't trust me on this, but I have heard rumors that Canon was coming out, hopefully, with a 14 millimeter tilt shift that not only had autofocus. Why? I don't know, but okay, great. Yeah. There's been times when I've been pissed, that my 17 millimeter wouldn't autofocus when I couldn't carry a lot of lenses. But apparently that has a built-in drop-in filter system, which amazingly would cover polarizing filters, NDs, and everything else in the back. And that I'm really excited about because getting rid of, I'm sorry, Photodiox, but I love you for bringing out those things. Thank you for making that happen. But if I could get rid of the bulk when I'm traveling, that you can serve adding that to my kit
dinner on that thing, man.
That's a great advancement. I could.
You can serve Thanksgiving dinner on that filter.
Yeah.
I'm thinking guest post.
There. So no, I haven't used the back filter holder of the 1124, but on the old FD lenses, I remember some of the wide angle lenses had it, and I was using color gels on those at the time. And I did try the polarizing, but you lost all the sharpness.
Yeah, I think the only time that I've ever seen anybody use that thing was when they were doing underwater photography and they had to put the red filter in. But that's about it. I haven't seen anybody talk about a polarizing for that, but that's what it was made for.
And the Sigma 14 to 24 has the same, and I haven't bought a filter for it yet either. So
yeah.
I don't know. This is more a question if that actually a quality polarizing filter or gel exists that you can put on the back that won't reduce the quality of the image.
Right.
And how do you turn it? Right. To get
Well, it's simple. You just turn your camera to the side.
Oh, dang! Why didn't I? All those years.
I like it.
Everything's going on Instagram anyway. It's always a square.
That's right. Let's just go for some Hasselblads and.
Wow, what a good grab bag question that was. Okay, on our upcoming new show, the Q&A show, I think we need to talk about tilt shift and filters. So let's put that in our back pocket. Rob, what's going on with you?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Rob Moroto. I'm a commercial photographer out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the tar sands capital of the north. And yeah, I service clients all across Canada here, and now I'm coming out with a online course teaching how to do real estate photography because that is what we've been doing for 12 years. And yeah, that's about it. If you want to check that out or check out my work, go to robmoroto.com. And I've got a Patreon page set up now so people can actually send me money, which is fantastic.
All right.
And yeah, sorry for the plug there. But aside from that, yeah, I'm just the real estate market in Alberta is booming right now, and we are up probably around 60 to 70% year over year from last year, and that was up around 40% year over year from the year before. So we're just going gangbusters, and we're hiring new people, and yeah, just trying to keep up. It's crazy.
Are you doing houses or more commercial properties?
A little bit of both. So we do, I've got 15 people on staff, and they're shooting mostly for the realtors, and then they're shooting the fully built houses for the builders that just need to get off the lot. And then every once in a while, I'll go back to Calgary and I'll shoot the show homes. Now, during COVID, they didn't make a lot of show homes because they didn't think that a lot of people would be coming through. So they were doing more virtual renderings and selling online and selling out of existing show homes. But now that everything's opening up, all the builders are building out all these new show homes, and so I'm busy with that as well.
Wow.
Okay, Levi, you're going to get your chance when we feature you in the featured author section. But real quick about me, I'm Ron Pepper. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm specialize in 360 panoramic photography. Also do some real estate like Rob, and yeah, that's about it. You can find me ronpepper.com. And let's move to our second little discussion where we actually have an audio question from one Don Connors.
Hey Rob, with gas prices increasing, how do you guys deal with that? And how do you feel about charging clients extra for travel? Thanks.
Charging clients extra for travel.
Yeah, you know
and
what?
Actually, before you answer that, I have a little follow-up from the mainstream from a different industry.
Gallon. That's up almost 50 cents since just last week. And starting next Wednesday, Uber is adding a temporary surcharge of 45 cents or 55 cents per ride. Uber says the surcharge is meant to soften the blow of higher gas prices on drivers.
So they're doing a little addition. What was it, 50 cents per ride? I mean, that doesn't sound like too much, but I suppose it adds up.
Yeah, I mean, here it's up $1 a gallon over last week. So, yeah. So Rob, send some sands down here, man.
Let's go around the table from lowest to highest. Utah, what's gas price?
$4.30 right now for unleaded, regular unleaded.
I'm in California, we're up to $6 a gallon, and in Canada, based on a gallon, do you know what that would be?
Yeah, so we are in Calgary right now. It's around $1.50 a liter. So there's 4 liters per gallon. Yep. So you're looking around $6 there.
So that doesn't sound too high for Canada.
No, it's in Alberta because it is the it's where the oil comes from.
Of Canada,
yeah. They've got a little bit of a subsidy. There's places in Canada right now where it's over $2 a liter. So we're looking at $8 a gallon. But then again, that's Canadian dollars. So what's that, like a couple of pesos?
Yeah. I think it's about I don't know, 200 pesetas or something like that.
Those don't exist anymore, buddy.
I know.
And we miss them.
I just thought I would flex a little bit.
I get the booby prize. I'm afraid I beat you all to it. We've gone up from about €1.30 for diesel per liter to, I think it's hitting 2, and that's over the last week or two, the difference.
So
by your calculation, that's about €8 per gallon, which would be about $9.
Okay, we got a winner.
Wow.
See, I thought euros were more than that.
Historically, we've always been a lot more expensive than the States.
Yeah.
We don't have those distances to drive.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Wayne, do you do a lot of driving that is work involved, or do you do more destination?
I do. So how I handle it, going back a little bit also to the concept of, what do you charge for your travel? I know a lot of different photographers do it different ways. I've had photographers tell me years ago, buddy, forget charging travel fees. No one's getting that anymore. I do charge travel fees when it's a certain distance outside of my range. I mean, if it's something that I can drive to within within like an hour's distance, I'm not going to charge them really for the time or the gas money. But anything beyond that, then we're working out a mileage charge. We're working out charges for the travel time. I historically charge my travel time at about 50% of my production rate. And when I have my international jobs, I do have a travel day, which is about half of the day rate, excluding the digital charges. So more like my creative fee, half of my creative fee. And I do have some acquaintances who are not charging for that, but I find the difference between their work and my work is that they are shooting larger 7 to 10 day shoots in which you can absorb a day or two of travel, whereas a lot of my work is kind of like SWAT team in and out. I've flown to Australia for one day of work, believe it or not, once.
Wow.
So I'm charging for the travel time until I get a job that, I can say, look, guys, I can cut you a deal on this.
So what you have to do is just slow down and take a few extra days.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the first time I went to Australia, it was a week, and I said to my client, I said, look, this is kind of crazy. I hadn't been there before. I said, everyone tells me it's got to be minimum 2 weeks. Listen, it is the holidays. Why don't you take me there for a week, and I'm going to stay an extra week, and I can work over the 2 week period, so it's good for all of us. And that worked out really well. But then there was a time when they did fly me out for one day shoot. I stayed 3, but it was a 1 day assignment.
But there's a concept of charging for travel expenses, and then there's also travel time. So for bigger projects, and historically I would do
traveling for both.
Okay, but I guess there's the thing about going and doing a job that all of the travel gets built in. Like if I'm going to drive somewhere to a location near me and I'm going to be there, I'm going to make 4 trips over a week. I usually would come up with day rates and a plan, and it's all just kind of included. But in an area where we're doing a lot of real estate, for instance, and you're driving anywhere from 5 to 30 miles on a typical job or something like that, then your gas just adds up. And when you're getting paid for real estate, which is historically not as high, but is getting better. Real estate agents are paying better these days. Then, I think Rob would be the best to kind of give us a little bit pro and con on how to handle that from a business expense. Because when that expense goes up, it goes up.
Well, that's true. And you know what we do is we look at it from mileage, and because Calgary is a very corporate hub. There's a lot of travel for most people in Calgary, going up to the oil fields and going up to Edmonton, down to Texas, and getting to all the refineries. So people are used to paying for travel or getting paid for travel for work. So they're used to paying people for travel as well. And so what we usually do is we go with whatever the government standard rate is for travel for the car, and then we look at our hourly rate, and then we break that down as well, so that if we are, Wayne, just like you said, if we're traveling for half a day, we can easily justify charging half that rate for just that time that you're on the road, as well as the wear and tear on the car and the gas. The interesting thing about the other things, Ron, you also said that you should be charging for the travel expenses like food and your hotel. And that's a given. And we've just done a set rate, and especially with our photographers, because we shoot mostly for realtors, so they're not going to put us up in the 5-star hotel, but we put a set fee. And what I tell my guys is, look, if you're going up to this city, here's a set fee. This is your travel allowance. If you've got a buddy up there and you can sleep on their couch, pocket that money. That's yours. Or if you find a cheaper hotel, go out for a better dinner, right? Yeah. Whatever you want. It's all up to you. You got that money. If you want to stay at a luxury hotel, you pay the difference. That's all up to you. And people are pretty good about that. But getting back to Dawn's question about what do we do with increased gas prices? Because I've got guys right now who are doing anywhere from like 3 to 8 shoots a day, and they're driving all over the city, and they're putting around $50 worth of gas every 2 days into their car.
Yeah, that's the kind of job I'm curious about how that if you can decide if that's going to be a short-term problem, or if you just go ahead and charge based on what it is without guessing the future. How do you handle that?
Well, that's exactly it. And so, you look at the Uber model of charging an extra 50 cents. Well, Uber's easy because it's already added into the app. There's no additional work that needs to be done on any party, right? So that's pretty simple.
There's nothing you can do about it either.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. It's done.
Right.
It's there. And it's 50 cents. Who cares? However, when it comes to my clientele, what I found is that they're very, very fickle. And so we get to the point where if you raise your prices even like 2%, it gives them a reason to search and look for somebody else.
Bingo.
And just compare prices. And that's a risk of losing a client. So when my staff came up to me and said, oh my God, fuel prices are just through the roof, we need to charge a fuel surcharge. I said, all right, well, let's figure it out. How much did it go up? And like, it went up 50 cents a liter. I'm like, okay, 50 cents a liter. Your average car takes 10 liters per 100 kilometers, right? And so if it's gone up 50 cents, then, if you've got an average shoot that's around, say, 40 kilometers, like 20 kilometers there, 20 kilometers back, 40 kilometers altogether, you add it all up, the difference in the amount of gas that you'd be paying is around $2. And so for a $200 shoot, am I going to go back to a client and say, because of gas, I'm sorry, we're going to charge you an extra $2? They're probably going to get really angry about that. So instead of getting, covering our butts with money, we're actually just hurting our relationship with our client. So I just told my staff, I'm like, look, if it becomes a big issue, send me the extra. Like, you guys do what, 200 shoots a month, so $2, I'll pay the $400. No worries, just send it to me. I don't care.
But that does illustrate that it does add up to $400
after 200 shoots. 200 shoots,
yeah,
$200 is.
Yeah. Well, they're real estate shoots, so we go back to the Canadian dollar amounts we talked about before.
Yeah, but it's not a big amount. It's literally works out to around 1% for us. So for the time being, we're going to look at covering that internally. But we haven't raised our prices in 12 years, so I think we'll be able to weather this storm, and then we'll see what goes forward. And I guess the simple answer is, it's not worth that 1% is not worth risking losing your clients.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
the 100%. It's not worth 100%. Right, it's not worth losing 100%.
Yeah.
So
no, that's good. That's good perspective, and this prices going up all around is not going to go away. It isn't just gas, so it would just end up being in our calculation for any future price hikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's look at it a little differently too, Pep. Is like, I don't know. We don't know what Dawn photographs, but maybe Dawn does families.
Yeah.
Oh, she does do real estate. Oh, well, okay. I'm the only non-real estate guy in the room. If
we actually
Mrs.
know
Jones
Dawn.
Calls me.
Sorry.
Oh, I probably do. Who is she? I know most photographers.
No, I mean, Rob knows her, and I know her a bit. We did some live things during the pandemic anyway, but she's at ProPhoto. What is it, Rob? ProPhotos?
Yeah, it's
KC.
ProPhotosKC.com, and she does real estate photography in Kansas and Missouri.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Ron, I'm going to just interject here because I have kind of a question for Rob and a comment on what we were talking about, because presumably people can't ask questions when they're listening to this. I'm curious, Rob, if you have, as I was mentioning before, sort of a zone that you work within where you're not charging anything for gas, and then beyond that you're adding a charge, and that's where you're deciding not to make the difference now. I presume that's what you mean, or do you charge from kilometer zero?
No, we anything that's in the city is completely free. Right. And what my guys were saying was that even though you're in the city, you're running around like crazy. And so because of that, what they were wanting to do was to charge, say, an extra $5 on every shoot to cover for the additional expenses of gas. And when I told them, it's like, it's not even $5 that you're getting, or that this price increase is actually affecting you. It's not even $5. It's like $2, or even less, considering how close some of these places are. So I can't justify charging our clients an extra $2 because it's 1%.
Exactly. Yeah. It's what's there's a term for that. Pin needling. Dang, I've been out of the States too long. There's when you're haggling over nothing.
Oh, nickel and diming.
Nickel and diming. Thank you.
Yeah. I know the next 2 coins that are going to go extinct.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say that, photography is a customer relation business, and I always find myself a little annoyed when I see the ones that are not customer service oriented, say let's say big companies without naming anybody. And whenever something happens, they just add that little surcharge that Rob mentioned, or they just constantly have price changes, constantly. And they could go down, as I imagine. They're just always doing this calculation to keep it fair. And I know they don't usually go down, but they could, that's all I'm saying. But these ones that don't think about it, they just I guess they just have the accountants and lawyers just saying, okay, here's the new price today, and they don't even ask. But we, for better and for worse, I think it's for better, have to really think about that and how it impacts everybody. And that's one reason we're photographers. And Levi, I know you commute across state lines. Is it long?
I drive 30 minutes every day to work.
30,
yeah.
Okay, it's not too bad, but it's not.
Is long.
Yeah.
Well, it's got me leaving earlier so I can drive slower. It affects it because you see this big number that is significantly different on the huge sign several times along the highway, so it's at the top of everybody's mind. And like you said, it is a small change overall. Like if it cost me $2 more to drive to a client's house to do pictures with them, then it's not that big a change for me. But if I pass that on, it can be a big, especially in family photography, there are literally 500 photographers within view of this building that can do the job. And so finding somebody, and I'm already not the cheapest guy in town. And so if I'm increasing that some more, it's not a great idea. And in fact, I could take it and use it as a marketing opportunity. We know prices are up, ours aren't. Everything is going up, and ours. Man, Rob, yours has been the same for 12 years. You ought to build an empire on that.
When I started, I said we are the most expensive photography firm in Calgary, and the realtor said, "Oh, well, why would I use you?" I said, "Because you're going to tell your clients who are selling $1 million homes that you're using the most expensive photography firm in Calgary."
That's right.
That's what you tell them, and you will get that listing. And they said, "Oh."
And you don't nickel and dime them for driving 10 more miles,
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that. That's a good point." I'm like, yes.
Exactly.
What's that old fatherly advice is always buy the best. You'll never be disappointed.
A phrase I really like that I saw in a photographer's signature once. I can't credit him because I don't remember his name, and I don't know who the quote is from, but it's, "If you think working with a professional is expensive, wait till you work with an amateur."
Yes, indeed.
That's right.
You think something's expensive now, wait until it's free. That's another one going along the same line.
That's a good one.
Hey, I'm just guessing a lot of people want to know this. Let's compare. If you guys don't mind sharing, Levi, what would you get for a, say, family portrait session?
Between $300 and $500.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
Well, ask me what I get for a realtor session for a real estate session.
I'm gonna go 99.
Tops, yeah, like $99 would be a great. The market is so easy right now. I bought my house based off of an iPhone photo of the window on the front door.
What?
Like, realtors down here are not interested in hiring a photographer. They don't need to. They can post the worst iPhone picture and make $1 million. So
listen, guys, I have to throw this out there. I once had a client. I I called him up. I never do this. And I said, listen, you've bought this full-page ad in the local magazine. I know that costs you significant money. And the picture really, I'm not doing this to sell to you. I know this guy. I'm like, call me and I'll make a better picture for you because it's almost bad advertising. And he went, well, the thing is with your pictures, Wayne, when people come, they might go, oh, I thought the house was more grandiose or bigger or richer. When I use my picture, they come, they go, wow, it's a lot better than I thought. I'll buy it. And I said, that's great. Just don't tell any of my other clients that, please.
But
don't tell anyone else. Keep
if it looks too bad, they won't go see it, and if it looks too good, they're disappointed when they get there. We got to find that sweet spot.
That's right. It's like your headshot from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you show up and people are like, "Oh."
I talked over you. What did you say from 10 years ago?
I said that's like using your headshot from 10 years ago.
Like every realtor does.
You show up and you're a little disappointed.
Definitely. No, we run into that all the time, and so I tell my staff this. I'm like, look, you know what? We are not shooting hamburgers for McDonald's. We're shooting houses, and so we have to be. We have to think of ourselves not as artists. We have to start thinking of ourselves as essentially it's like being a photographer for a crime scene. We're there to collect evidence. We are there to to collect imagery and to showcase everything. We're there to document the house, and we have to do it so that it looks as good as it can without exaggerating what it is. And so it's more documentation, and it's a fine line. It's a hard one because you don't want to make things look too distorted. Because let's face it, with that 11 to 24, you can make a powder room look like a palace.
The real estate photographers just don't get enough credit. It's a really quite a difficult niche of photography that people don't realize. I mean, it's getting easier. I can do pretty well with my iPhone, but still, when you know how it is when you're the professional, you really need to have control of that gear and really be deliberate and create. So, but yeah, that's the balance that we're all on. So I had a real estate client in San Francisco that he told me, he calls me because I make the place look bigger, but the reason was it was so small. All the places, there are a lot of lofts and condos that were small San Francisco places. Well, the reason they looked bigger is I used my 10.5 millimeter to get the whole darn room in, and that naturally
distorts.
That naturally makes things look farther away than they are. So it made it, and it was just natural, and I felt bad because it didn't look quite as real, but it wasn't doing anything wrong, but it was still sending not really the right message.
Well, there's laws of physics involved in the lens construction and photography that can't be avoided. So then it comes down to our ethics or our aesthetics to make that function. So, for example, one issue that I found all the time was that people would say that the pool looked a lot bigger than it was. Well, of course, you're at the edge of the property, shooting over the pool towards the facade. So you get the iconic shot of the house, pool, garden, facade. And the pool's going to look bigger because it is the closest thing to the lens and the house is further away. So what can you do? Well, unless you have a tilt shift lens or a ladder, crop the bottom of the image so you're cutting off half of that pool that you're making look bigger so it suddenly looks more appropriately sized.
But then the image is not as cool.
But then, of course, well, no, but it's less of an exaggeration, but that may not fit into the proportion of the real estate websites, which we probably in the States or like here have a very specific requirement as to proportion, which is, no room for margin.
Then you shoot a grid pano using a normal lens.
Bingo, there you go.
And increase your costs even greater by spending more time stitching these.
And then, of course, you bracket 5 frames of every single one of those pano shots.
Every time panorama comes up, you're going to get.
Nice.
I love
it. And it's funny. I was talking to one client about that, and they said, "Well, how can you make the pool? How can you make people know that the foreground thing is bigger than it is?" And in that situation, we don't have a lot of pools out here because, well, we're frozen most of the year.
we have
small ice skating rinks, yes.
Right? Yeah,
very big ice skating rinks.
That's exactly it. Like if it's an ice skating rink, what would we do? we would put a hockey net like right close to us to show that yes, we are actually closer, right? Like put a rubber ducky in the pool.
Isn't the main solution for that? Isn't the main solution for that just getting different shots of different perspective? That's the real answer.
Well, but you have that signature shot.
Yeah. And if it's on the cover of a magazine, you really can't change it.
That makes it okay. If it's the magazine shot, then it doesn't matter. But if the place looks really, really big, there's still a square footage listed right next to it, so they can know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's badger Levi a little bit.
Yes, Levi wrote something.
Okay, so let me
prices.
I would like to set this. I want to set this one up. The reason I wanted to say badger Levi is that Levi, you were the inspiration for doing a show with an author. Now, I know you and I go back. We did a audio show together and everything. Forget that.
I know. The wind beneath your wings.
Yeah. But one time, maybe a couple of years ago, we should probably do another show about this one. You put out an article that it was good. I'm not saying it was bad. When I say badger, it's just because everybody has their own things. But I think it was about using bracketing for nighttime photography. Now that's, you guys might know, is in my wheelhouse. I'm involved with Photomatix and I've been using it since before I was involved with them, and panoramic photographers were the inspiration to create the darn thing. I mean, I'm really involved with it, but, so my response in my head was, I didn't say this to you, but I'm like, Levi, why don't you call me? I have advice here.
I remember that.
Okay. I did tell you. Yeah. So anyway, and when we do it now, everything in photography there's lots of ways to do things. So I'm not saying what you said was wrong. I'm just saying that I had some other good insider information so that I thought would be a great thing to do. We could have on and again, critiquing is always positive and everything. And we could say, we could all have our own points about things and just expand on them. And so part of this show is I wanted to build that in. And this is the third show, and finally we have you on. And we're not even talking about that article that I just mentioned, but I just wanted to give you props that you were the inspiration for that.
So in other words, what Ron is saying, that he's finally going to be able to get this chip off his shoulder by badgering you on this article that you wrote.
He's been waiting.
There are they're much more important chips. That's nothing. For anybody new to listening, again, only our third episode, but one of the reasons to do this idea is to bring the writers who write written posts to the audio audience, because people like me are just audio audience originally, and I discovered Photofocus originally from the podcast. And so I wanted to kind of bring some crossover there. Make sure you can go to Photofocus.com, and there's new articles every day, and some of them are quick, fast reads. Some of them are in depth. And the one we want to talk about today is Levi's article. The official title is 4 Steps to Creating Instantly Interesting Photos with Reflections. And one thing that I took from it was creating interesting photos in a place where most people would look and go, there's no photo here. Levi used the reflection on the floor and some attractive women's shoes with feet in them to get a cool photo. And there's a couple of things I want to bring up about it, but the idea is to spark the conversation about what some things we can do when we're in a place that doesn't seem to be photographic, but we either are assigned to get something, or we're photographers and we want to have fun, and we want to expand and practice and maybe do something different. Levi, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what inspired it, what started this, and then we'll each get a chance to either badger or compliment or critique or all above.
Sure. I as I recall, I was at the airport and just looking for something to photograph, and there's tricks to getting things done, right? And ways to convince people to be in a photograph. I'm a people photographer, and sometimes I need an excuse to talk to somebody and get them to be in a picture. Sometimes I just need a little doorway into a conversation or something. And so, I saw this lady wearing hot red shoes, and people, like, the thing about people wearing hot red shoes is that they want you to see their shoe. Like they want you to notice their shoes. They're not like trying to be incognito. So
very approachable.
If you ever compliment a woman on her hot red shoes, that's what she wants. I think it's pretty safe to say that's what she wants. If you see a guy wearing a bright red bow tie, this is usually me, Rob, and Wayne. It is totally appropriate to compliment the bow tie. So I said, "Whoa, those are nice shoes." And thinking of, well, there's a thing I could photograph, but we're in the airport. There's like the ugly airport chairs all around and stuff, and nothing really to do. No great light, nothing standing out to make a great photograph. But like many airports, there's a tile floor. And so something I had learned early on as a photographer, I was attending a workshop with Skip Cohen, in fact, and Ryan Shembry was there. He's an Australian photographer, and he pointed out that the closer you get to a surface, the more reflective it is. Like any surface, like you take asphalt on the street, and if you get down on your belly, it will reflect whatever's above it. That's what a mirage is, right? When you see the heat wave and shimmer of a mirage, it's just reflections going on between the atmosphere and the road, I think. And so even a rough surface like the road actually becomes reflective when you get down close to it. And so even though the tile floor is naturally reflective, there's still all this stuff on it. There's dust and there's all kinds of jazz on there. So when you get down lower, those things become lost in the reflections as well. So I knew if I got down real low with my camera, I could get a reflection of her shoes and legs in this picture on the floor, and then use the floor as the majority of the photograph and her feet and legs as a very minor part. Because if I use too much vertically, you just see the chairs and everything behind her. So
you get simplifying is one of the main things that you got from getting down there. Yeah.
Exactly. We absolutely simplified it. And I think this was the D700 days. So I'm on my belly because there's no tilt screen. There's no tilting viewfinder or anything. Right. So I think I'm probably on my belly, laying on the airport floor to make this picture. And, I went up to her and I said, "Hi, my name's Levi." I've already told her I like her shoes. And I write articles but in the article it says, "My name is Levi. I'm a photographer and I write articles to teach other photographers. I'm working on an article about reflections, and I think your shoes would make a great subject. Would you make a picture with me over here on these tiles?" She said, "Sure, that sounds interesting." Like there's nothing else going on at the airport right now. And when I told her I'm working on an article about reflections, I think I started working on an article about reflections about 5 seconds ago.
That's one of the really great things that I've learned from being at some of these photo walks, some with Levi, in fact, like at Chicago and a couple other places, is walking up to someone and introducing yourself as a photographer that wants to take photos. Man, that really works. And it's really hard for some people, some not. And
it's hard for me too. Yeah.
It's the thing, the difference is, and I have to make this choice a lot of times. Do you want to be that incognito photographer catching people that don't know it, which can come across really creepy,
especially when you're photographing somebody's feet in an airport? That would be creepy.
Yes. Lying on the ground.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Did you put some kind of a bait over there so that you? I've also seen photographers go up to people and introduce themselves and be very nice and come across creepy. So it's got to be really careful to be friendly and let them know what you're doing. And I like your idea of starting out with complimenting. That's really something that we should all know. It's never a mistake. It shouldn't be surprising.
It also tests the waters for you. It gauges the waters. If she says, "Thanks, I got these at so-and-so, and I really like wearing them because of it." Oh, man, she just opened up the conversation right there. But if she kind of looks at you and goes, "Thanks," and turns away and looks at her phone, then that's also an indicator that you need to find some dude with wingtips on. So,
the worst one that I got was I went up to a girl and said, "Hi," and she looks at me and says, "Not a chance," and walks away.
That's the thing. You've got this multi-million-dollar camera in your hands or hanging around your neck. They already know you're crazy, and so like they're not surprised when strange things come out of your mouth. So,
But she was assuming what the question was going to be.
Yep.
it wasn't wrong.
Well, I was going to say we should go around and give a quick advice. I'll start with what to do when you don't feel like there's a photo around. And one of mine I like to use is I call it turn around. I just remember one, and I'm going to interject one more thanks Levi moment for unsolicited at my house one time. He said that he complimented a photo, and it was one that I was down at the Golden Gate Bridge, where I used to live right next to it, and that's one of the most photographed places in the world. And I thought, oh, I'll do that. Well, there was weather and people and whatever. It wasn't a good shot to make a photo. So I turned around and I thought, well, let me start looking at some of the personalities that are around here. But I ended up getting some really great ones that way. And I can say they're really great because Levi said so. So that's my tip for when you think there isn't a shot, is to kind of rethink what you're shooting. And I call it turn around just to call it simple. But do you have one like that, Wayne, that you can throw out as a tip?
Yeah. No, I was photographing a German rock band, apparently one of the biggest German rock bands, whose name I can't pronounce. Die Arzt, the Doctors. They were doing a video down here, and we were on the situation on the yacht. It was like the lower level, so there was a deck above them, and they were in shade. And I was just the stills guy. I didn't have any lighting. They were totally in shade. In the background was this bright white marina in blazing sunlight, and I went, well, this photo doesn't work. And we're talking slide film days before you could, do anything. You had to get the shot. So I had two choices, and I went for the second one. Choice one was silhouette them. Silhouette would have been a really cool shot, but the background was very busy. So what I chose to do was overexpose and do it like a fashion shoot. And so I probably shallow focus, overexposed, and behind them was a nuclear explosion, and it was just these guys perfectly lit up with nice, soft, even light, and the background was a total nuclear explosion, and it was great. You just have to find what works with what you have.
Yeah, can you use it? Take advantage and embrace the difficult things and make something out of it.
And I like what you say about looking behind. I think it's a really important piece of advice, not necessarily because what you're shooting isn't interesting or there is something important. You get so caught up in your focus on a specific theme or shot that you can miss something equally interesting or that suddenly is happening elsewhere. So it is kind of important to kind of disconnect every now and then and look around fast and see if maybe you're not shooting the most interesting thing.
Definitely. Rob, have you got a quick tip for tough situations?
I always find that like in real estate, we always talk about framing your picture with something around it to pull your focus away from, like, to pull your focus into whatever you want your subject matter to be. So some of the best photos that I've done is, like, if I see a person that's interesting, great. Maybe what I'll do is, like at an airport, I would probably take my camera and go right to like the armrest of a chair and go behind that so that the person is showing up through the tunnel of armrests and is in the center of that, right? So now I'm taking whatever the subject matter is, but then finding something else to put around it to kind of not distract, but actually the other way around. We use something else around it to frame it so that your focus goes straight to whatever your subject matter is. And I did that. I used to do that when shooting weddings. It's like, okay, there's the bride and groom. There's the bride and groom. Okay, well, let's shoot the bride and groom through the flowers that are at the table. Let's shoot them through the lattice that is over here, and let's shoot them between two wine glasses, right? Just put something else in front, just to make it messier, and then it puts the focus on that one subject that you're got clear in the shot.
I like it. Well, guys, we're getting time to wrap up. I think let's go around and give one chance to tell everybody where to find you, in case all of our discussion about who we are earlier on didn't really click. Let's go backwards order. Levi, let's start with you.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at PhotoLevi, Levi, and you'll still find me on Photofocus.
Photofocus, yeah. Hey, Wayne, do you have any social media, or where do you like people to find you?
I enjoy my Instagram account very much because it's a great way to put stuff out into the world. I'm at Wayne Chassan on Instagram. My website, which is more my commercial work, although it does have some more personal portfolios, is chassan.com, and I'm going to spell that just because nobody's going to know how to.
I was going to if you didn't.
Yeah, CHASAN.com. And then just recently I've started an online shop for my open edition prints, which is WayneChassan.com. So depending on what you're interested in, what's going on in my life the last month is Instagram. What am I selling at a very reasonable prices at Wayne Chassan, and what do I do to earn a living is at Chassan.com.
All right, we'll have all those in the show notes to get the spelling and everything. And Rob, besides, where's the best place?
For me, if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just Rob Moroto. That's my handle, and website robmoroto.com. And if you want to help me on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Rob Moroto as well.
All right, are you going to start a Kickstarter here pretty soon?
You know what? I'll take whatever money is out there.
I'm just going to interject it because somebody will get confused. But if you want to listen to my album, you can look up Wayne Chassan on Spotify.
Really?
Just because when you do, it's kind of a long story, but it's songs that I wrote when I was 20. Tried to record at 30 by trading a photo session with a recording studio. That just didn't work. At 40, I finally recorded it with my brothers in New York, who all turned into musicians, a little bit inspired by me. And then by the time I was in my 50, I got bored of trying to get it out into the world because we never finished. I'm living here, New York's there. Anyhow, one thing and another, COVID hit. My son said, put it on Spotify. And I went, okay. So you'll also find Wayne Chassan on Spotify or Apple Music as well.
This show actually goes out on Spotify, so maybe there'll be some crossover there.
Cool.
Let's see. For me, ronpepper.com, it's all there. You can go rpepper on Instagram. Thanks for joining us for the March Roundtable. We'll see you next month for the next show. And I'd like to invite anyone to send us either by email or by voice some questions about photography that we can use in our upcoming Q&A shows. There will be a link in the show notes for that as well. And that's it for March. See you next month. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining.
Over and out.
And hasta luego.
And if you'd like to send those voice recordings, send them to Ron Pepper. His phone number is 8675-309.
309.
Jeez.
Why? I don't know, but okay.
This is audio, but I guarantee everybody's smiling like Canadians right now.
That's also an indicator that you need to find some dude with wingtips on.
Holy crap, it is cheaper to buy cocaine and run to work than to drive.